Okay, for time's sake, we'll get started, and I am going to record this, and I'm going to pre-apologize if it glitches out at any moment because I do live in the deep six. So everybody cross your fingers for good service. So thank you so much for taking time out of your night and making it on this call. Tonight we are talking about mindfulness. Oh, my husband and son are just getting home, but that's okay. So we're talking about mindfulness, and in these series on Thursday, we're kind of just going over what we learned about in law when we were away in Montreal. So thank you again so much for hopping on here. So I am in no way a doctor or an expert or anything. I'm just taking what I've learned from my journey in this and throughout life and sharing what I know with you guys. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to go through what we learned in law and then kind of how I've applied mindfulness in my own life and how it's helped me in my life and in my business.
2 days to watch this silence chapter. When ours broke down, we had.
I'm just going to mute everybody. There we go. Okay. I kind of still hear somebody talking. So just check if you're all muted. Just check on your screen there. I don't hear anything now, so I think it's good. So mindfulness is just simply taking the time to pay attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. It is something that we do have to practice and take time to learn how to do, and the more you do it, the better you will become at it. So why do we want to do this? Like, you hear about it lots now. It's all over the internet. Every time I turn my YouTube, there's a video about it on the news or even magazines. So why is this important? Why are people looking at mindfulness more? And I actually read a thing the other day that said that healthcare is actually going to start looking at this as a health practice. So that's really exciting because it can have a huge impact on your life. So what we're doing when we're being mindful is we're slowing down our automatic response. You know, we're taking the time to discover what's happening in that moment, and taking the time to think about why we are doing what we're doing or why we're feeling what we're feeling in a certain situation. So it's removing that filter of stress and trauma, because we'll get into it, but we all are conditioned and we all have a story, and our story is usually built around stress and trauma. So we want to cultivate different responses. So our conditioning, we are all driven by stress and trauma. I don't know about you, I know this has definitely happened to me, but have any of you ever emotionally reacted before and then sometime later thought, what the heck just happened? Like, why did I react like that? Like, I know I've definitely done that. And that's why I'm so grateful to this business. Yes, because really it might sound super corny, and somebody said it to me and I thought it was just the corniest thing, but now it is so true that this really is a personal growth journey disguised as a business. And I'm so thankful for that because I have learned so many things along this path that have helped me be a better mom, be a better wife, be better at my job, just be better all around. So our conditioning, our instinct is to run or avoid our traumatized selves. Like, we don't want to acknowledge ourselves. As humans, that's the way we're made. We're supposed to avoid things that are going to hurt us, right? We don't want to see it, and we certainly don't want the world to see how we really perceive ourselves. So what story are you telling yourself about you when no one else is around? So take the time after this call and really sit down and think about, like, what are those things you're telling yourself when something goes wrong, or when you're by yourself and maybe you didn't get that prospect that you were hoping to get, or something, or you had a bad day with the kids and you yelled. You think about that. What are you telling yourself after? And then think about, where is that story stemming from? So we all have a formula behind our stories, and it's sad, but it's very true that, like, as humans, we're just super complex, and our stories are built around trauma and pain. That's how they're formed. Our stories aren't created on the happy moments, sadly, but on the trauma. We are, as humans, are trained to stay away from what's going to hurt us, right? So we need to identify what has built our story so that we can recognize it when things are happening. So trauma, pain, self-identification, and defense are the formulas for our stories. And trauma is usually the base of it. So it's a big word, it's a giant spectrum, and everybody has a different story to it. You can think yours is petty or you can think yours is huge. It is your story, and it doesn't matter the size or the magnitude or whatever it is, it's your story. So this can be something that happened to you in childhood, in adolescence, in your teenage years or high school, your first relationship, through a divorce, a death, anything. It's your story. Everybody's story is different, and we need to recognize that. And that's a big thing too. We need to stop comparing ourselves to others, because we all have our own story, and we all have created a different story from that. So these events create a story about reality that that we use throughout our entire life. Like when anything bad happens, whether you consciously know it or not, you're going back to that story that's created the way you react to things now. So the next step in our story formulation is pain. So these things that have happened to us that cause us trauma created an imprint of pain. The traumatic event creates an imprint of pain on the brain. I watched a super interesting documentary actually on the way home from law about Dr. Marion Diamond on studying the brain. And it was phenomenal on what love and compassion and companionship can do for the brain, and what trauma and neglect and deprivation can do to the brain. Like, we have amazing abilities to train our brain and to learn new things. So just utilize that. We're so lucky. So yeah, trauma creates our story, and that pain makes an imprint, and we don't want to ever feel that pain again. So our brains are now geared to avoid anything that's going to make us feel that way again. And then self-identification. So that imprint on the brain has a psychological impact, or it happens frequently, or is a major event that we identify with and makes it ours. So whether it's something in your childhood, like there was abuse in your childhood or alcoholism, or there was one major trauma, you had something major in your marriage or something, that creates an imprint. And from that pain and that trauma, you create something. You start to tell yourself you are something. And it's usually not something good. So we start to say things like, I'm unlovable, I'm hopeless, I'm inadequate, I'm unworthy, nobody cares about me, I'm not good enough, or I'm never good enough, or I can't. So who do you think you are when you're at your darkest moments? I know some of this stuff is super deep, but it is so important to start recognizing these things so that you can start changing them and building yourself from them, because these stories are there for a reason, but we need to know how to use them. And then we go into defense. So we don't like these parts of us, right? We're not happy about these things that we identify with us. So we make an agreement to not feel that way. We try and avoid that at any cost. And we don't want others to see who we think we really are either. So we create defenses. We have fear of the pain and trauma, so we create a defense to avoid it. So I know for me, one of my defense mechanisms is withdrawing. If I know there's something, a situation or something that I just don't want to deal with, or I'm going to hurt somebody, or I'm going to feel hurt, I just try my damnedest to avoid it. Or I will instantly get angry. I am definitely an insta-rager, and I will just get mad and angry and react not the way I want to. If I had stopped and been mindful and thought about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And then people please too. I'll also try and make everybody around me happy so that I'm forgetting about what's going on with me, or I'm not bringing attention to what's going on with me. So think about what you do in your own life that helps you avoid those pains. What do you do to get out of those situations that make you feel uncomfortable? So how does this all work? You are experiencing the world carrying around a body and a mind conditioned with stress and trauma. Someone or something enters your world, your space, and triggers your traumatic story and creates pain. You automatically identify with the pain and react. You react with the defense you have created to keep you safe. By doing so, you confirm your story, and the next time you are triggered, it is more automatic. So that's what we've done throughout our whole lives, right? And each time we do react that way from the story that has been created from whatever has happened in our life, we're just reaffirming that that's our story, and we put that as our first reaction to everything. So getting to know yourself and know your reactions and know why you're feeling what you're feeling, and just being able to capture those feelings. I'm not saying you have to get it all under control all at once or figure it out. Like, I have by no means figured it out at all. But I am more in tune with, instead of instantly getting angry, I can notice, hey, I'm getting hot, or I can feel my fingers tightening, or the back of my neck is starting to sweat. I'm getting angry. Why is this making me so angry? So we have neurowebs. Sorry, the mosquitoes are getting crazy. Spritz. So yeah, we have neurowebs. So these are, so what happens is sense data comes in. So something happens, right? And it comes in and it triggers us. So it rattles that web that we have, that web that we have created with our stories that we have built throughout our lives. So automatically you don't even know it's happening. And sometimes it can happen and you don't even know why. So you'll get ticked off at something and you don't even realize you're getting mad, and then you don't even realize why you're mad or why you made such a big reaction of it. But it's because of those automatic responses and because of those stories we've created for ourselves. And then how does this affect relationships? I know it still does, but it used to heavily affect my relationship with anybody. Like, I had a hard time creating relationships because of stories that I've created throughout my life. And now that I'm recognizing that, it has made a world of difference in my marriage, my life as a mom, just my life in general. So you have your neurowebs, sense data is coming in, you perceive it in your stress and trauma, and you react, right? Your reaction rattles your partner's neurowebs. That data is going in and triggers their stress and trauma, which causes them to react. So I know we all have those instances that we can go back and look at in our relationship with our partner or our husbands or wives or our friends. And you've had this where you're triggering each other. Imagine if you could understand yourself enough to navigate what is really happening and have the ability to have empathy for you and your partner, knowing that you are in the story of stress and trauma and being able to keep them, help them navigate theirs. So yeah, what if you were able to stop that instant reaction and stop those neurowebs from getting rattled, or at least recognize that that's what's happening before you're letting that reaction out? It makes a world of difference. So in my own life, like my story, my trauma has come from situations as a child with my parents. There was some alcohol. I lost my grandma at a young age, and that was a really traumatic event. I watched her in a car accident. I had troubles in school. And then that left me feeling inadequate, insignificant, unlovable, unworthy, and it left me not wanting to connect to other people. And then my defenses were to people please, avoid or withdraw, shame. I was really bad at this in high school. Like, I really didn't like myself, so I really put that off on a lot of other people. And then rage too. Like I said, I can definitely really be bad at the insta rage. So I'm really working on all these things now so that it can help me in my everyday life, not only my business, but being a better wife and a mom and a co-parent, because I co-parent my son with my ex, and that, if any of you are in that situation, can be really challenging sometimes. So I'm really glad that I've found this practice of mindfulness, because it has helped me in tremendous ways. And then at work too, I'm still a nurse, and I go to work at a hospital, and it can get kind of hectic some days and stressful, and people come in, they're stressed, and they take their stress out on people who don't always deserve it sometimes. So this has definitely helped me hone in that initial reaction that I have sometimes when I'm taking something I don't think I deserve. So solutions. So this is not like a magic halo around your head. Like, just because you started practicing mindfulness doesn't mean you're going to have all your shit together, because believe me, it ain't together yet. But it is a start, and you will grow every day. There's a black cat here, and I bet that's the sucker that's been getting my chicken. Okay, focus, sorry. So yeah, it's not a halo. It's not gonna, like, everything's not gonna magically come together and you're not gonna figure it all out. But it is the start. And once you start to practice it, it becomes much easier, and you will start to, there will be days when you have a situation and you react the way you always hoped you had, and you sit down and think about it after. It's like, oh my goodness, like, I didn't cry when I was mad, or I didn't fly off the handle when I shouldn't have. You will start to do these things, and it will start to literally change everything around you. So get close to it. We want to get close to these traumas and pain. It might suck sometimes. But when these things are happening, identify it. Identify why you're hurt, why it's making you feel hurt, and slow down that reaction. Think about, why do you want to react like that? What created that reaction? How could you react differently, and start to create that new path? And then training it to slow down. So mindfulness-based meditation is a really great tool. And I know you might roll your eyes at the thought of meditation, because I sure did for a long time. But meditation can be something different for everybody. It does not mean you're sitting on the floor oming. It can be anything that works for you. Sit in a chair and just be quiet for 5 minutes and focus on your breathing. Yes, thoughts are going to come in, and that's okay, but you just recognize them and you go back to your breathing. And it can be the sitting on the floor and totally getting into peace and putting on some soft music, or it can be going into nature and spending some time in nature and just being quiet and being with yourself and with your thoughts, and focusing on your breathing and your body. And there are tons and tons of videos on YouTube, or write-ups on the internet, or apps that help you. There's timers, there's all sorts of things. So go out there and explore that, because it's really, it really is the foundation for this quote, this pay attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So like I said, these thoughts are going to come in, but that's okay. Don't judge them. Don't judge yourself for having them. Just acknowledge that they're there and go back to focusing on your breath. This is a practice, right? You're not going to be an expert at it day one. It's a practice that you're going to build. And by taking this time out of your day to solely focus on you, your breath, and your thoughts, and your body, you are going to become more mindful throughout your entire day. And then a little more about meditation. So whenever your mind wanders, and it will, like I said, bring your attention back to your breath. Your breath is your anchor. So the exercise and work is recognition and choice. Recognize you have wandered off, just observe, no judgment, and choose to come back to your breath. Daily meditation. So easy does it. Start slow, like I said. Do not jump into this, and because you will overwhelm yourself. You don't have to start doing 20-minute meditations. Start with 3, 5, 10. Work yourself up to it. And find what works for you. Not the same thing is going to work for everybody. So you can do the 3 deep breaths. You can focus on your breathing. You can do the body scan, where you take 5 minutes and you focus on your breathing. And as you do that, you scan your entire body, however you're sitting. But you start at the top of your head and you just go down and you focus on every bit of your body. How do your ears feel? How do your shoulders feel? It might sound silly at first, but it is giving you that thing to focus on, and it is just helping you practice being in the moment and being in your body. And then this is a really good app too, the Insight Timer app. And then really this is just giving yourself the permission to give yourself time for you to love yourself, so that you can go out and love others. And then create a new path. So now that we've recognized that story, we've recognized what we're doing, how we're reacting to things, we want to create that new path. So the goal is to interrupt the sequence by creating space, or the gap. Practice your mindfulness meditation so the recognition and choice happens off the pillow. Some people meditate in bed, is what that means, on the chair, whatever, wherever your spot is, off the deck, off the lily pad, whatever. You're starting to do this meditation so that this practice is happening without you even thinking about it. Watch your biology of stress in your story when sense data is coming in. So that's when something's making you feel those feelings. Recognize it. Take the moment to pause. Recognize what's happening and why it's happening. And observe it with no judgment. Don't get down on yourself, because that's not what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to better ourselves and get past that. So don't think like, oh, you're stupid for thinking that or whatever. Your story is you tell yourself. Just acknowledge it and acknowledge why you're doing it and create a new path. So phrases to interrupt your sequence. When you recognize you're in your stress and trauma, simple words can help. One of my favorites is I'm okay. So repeat until your nervous system gets back online. So just when you recognize I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. I used this a lot when I was, I don't talk about this a lot, but I went through a nasty court battle that didn't end up the way it ever should have. And that was one of the most awful times of my life. And what got me through it was being mindful of my reactions and taking ownership of the way that I behaved and reacted, and telling myself that it was going to be okay when sometimes I really knew it wasn't going to be okay when I walked into that building. And another thing I love to use too is, if you haven't heard or met or whatever, seen Mel Robbins, she has the 5 seconds. And that's just simply counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that literally does reset your nervous system and can get you back on track. So you can 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and think about I'm okay, or whatever your happy thought is or your phrase is, go back to that. So these are some other phrases you can use. What's different? I'm loved. I'm enough. Think about your story. What are you telling yourself? What do you need to change in that story that you're telling yourself? Especially the story you're telling yourself when stuff is getting really deep. So things you can do to create this new path is focus on the love and the good. Another thing I love to do is that I started in the last couple of months, actually since January, I think, is starting a gratitude journal. It really, I thought it was the dorkiest thing ever, honestly. But it really has helped. It wasn't enough to just take moments in my day and think about what I was grateful for. Actually taking the time to sit down and write them out has made a world of difference in how I really appreciate things and how I look at things. And I don't take the small things for granted anymore. And then hugs too. I was like, if Kate's on here, she works with me, she knows I'm like the biggest non-hugger. And that is changing, because I've looked at why I don't like hugging, because I tried not to let people get close to me because I was scared they were going to get taken away from me. So I wasn't letting people in. Now that I've acknowledged that and I'm trying to work on that, hugging is a pretty good thing. It makes people feel good. It makes you smile. I'm definitely not hopping on the hugs, but it's definitely a good thing. And it's part of recognizing what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? And then giving those compliments too, and acknowledging people's accomplishments, instead of looking at the negative on things, because our world is so full of the negative all the time. Try and start training your brain through this mindfulness to look at the good things. Notice when people are doing good and recognize them for that. Compliment them on their smile or the way they did something. Train your brain to look at the positive side of things. And then, it truly can change your life. It literally is changing mine every day. I'm becoming a better wife and a better mom. I'm figuring out this co-parenting thing better. I definitely don't have it down pat, but I'm figuring it out. I'm definitely less Insta-ragey. It's not my finest point, but it's getting better. And just all around, I'm taking the time to be present in my day and think about why I'm doing what I'm doing. Another defense I used to do was definitely fill my day full of everything that I could possibly fill it with as a defense, to avoid having the time to think about things that I didn't like to think about, or having to deal with things I didn't really want to be dealing with. So I'm glad that I've made the choice, because we all do have the choices to work it out, because we are all worth it. Seriously, look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you're worth it, because you are. And the way you relate to yourself really matters, and how we do anything is how we do everything. So always remember you are loved. Someone loves you. So many people love you, and nothing is fixed, and love matters. All things are going to change just because it's a crummy moment right now doesn't mean it's going to be crummy forever. Or something makes you feel awful, it doesn't mean you're going to feel awful forever, but take the time to recognize those things and choose gratitude, acceptance, love, and generosity, because those things really can change your life. So I know some of this was a little bit deep, and I thank you so much for taking the time out of your evenings to hop onto this. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I will post this as soon as my internet lets me. But again, thank you so much for hopping on, and I hope you guys all have a great night.